Hello everyone and welcome back to the Hammered Corner. In today's video, we will be going through the Long Cross series, also known as the Voided Long Cross. On screen now, you can see displayed timestamps, so you can easily refer to certain parts of the video in the future. And just like my short cross walkthrough, I will be using the Christopher R. Wren reference book throughout the video. So if you're looking for a great reference book to start off on this series of coin, then links will be down below in the video description. Also, I must credit Robert Page, whose work and research on the subject is ever inspiring, and his 92-page write-up on Henry's coinage was the basis of my inspiration, and lots of information from the write-up will be referenced in the video today. A link to his write-up will be down in the video description to view afterwards. So let's transport back to the middle of the 13th century. The state of the money circulating in England in the 1240s was poor. The coins were of the short cross type introduced more than 60 years beforehand by Henry II, and the last general recoinage had taken place during John's reign in 1205. And as a result, many of the coins were badly worn, many were clipped and underweight. So in 1247, the new long cross design was issued in London, and as the production increased, they quickly expanded to the Canterbury and Bury mints. Soon after, in 1248, another 16 provincial mints were opened, and these were open for a period of 2 years to 1250, to enable the production of a large volume of new pennies as soon as possible. These provincial mints then closed, and with the production continuing only from London, Canterbury, Bury, and occasionally Durham. Henry III's brother, Richard, Earl of Cornwall, was one of the richest men in England and was clearly an astute businessman. He provided a large quantity of silver for the minting of new coins in return for half of the share of the proceeds from the recoinage. The terms of which the introduction of the new coinage was conducted, while lucrative for the king and his brother, were very hard for the public. The persons bringing their short cross coins to the exchange would receive only as many new pennies by weight as could be coined from those they handed in, regardless of their face value. A further 13 pence in every pound, over 5%, was charged for the minting expenses, which included a margin from which the Earl and the King derived their profit. The Long Cross series is an immensely large series to get stuck into. The Long Cross pennies exist in 7 major classes and some 38 subclasses, which excludes mules. They were produced over a span of 35 years, and 20 different mints were utilised, though some only for a short while. There are 37 different moneyer names to be found on the coins, and 93 different combinations of mints and moneyers. If you want to collect one example from each mint, moneyer and subclass, then you'd be looking at a collection of over 500 coins. And if you were interested in variations in the spelling and or punctuation in the inscriptions, then you'd be looking at well over 3,000 different coins. So let's lay out the basics first. On screen we can see an example from each of the classes. The absence of a scepter in classes 1, 2 and 3 are the biggest giveaway of the class, as the introduction of the scepter wasn't seen until class 4. As a brief overview, you can begin to see the differences in legends, styles, crowns and lettering. To make it even easier, classes 6 and 7 are those rarer issues minted under Edward I in the name of Henry during the first 7 years of his reign, but more on that shortly. The classes you will see mostly are of that of classes 3 and 5, with classes 5 being, in my opinion, the most commonly found. So before we look at the classes, what are some important features to look for when IDing your long cross coins? Firstly, the coin legend. You want to first decipher the legend or the lettering around the coin. Is it the earlier legend reading Henricus Rex, Henricus Rex ANG, Henricus Rex Terci seen in class 2, or the most commonly seen Henricus Rex 3? This is the first thing I look for. Secondly, look to see if your coin has a scepter, and where the scepter is breaking up the word Rex. In some classes you want to pay attention to the shape of the eyes, the style of the X and R, and in classes 5 you want to pay close attention to the shape of the crown's band. But we will go through that as we go through the classes. So how do we read the reverse legends of the long cross coins? So if you have seen my short cross coinage walkthrough, the moneyer's name starts to the right of the cross initial mark, and that gives us an easy starting point. Unfortunately for us, the reverse legend of the long cross coins are split into 4, and with the absence of an initial mark, leaves us stranded as to where to start. So as always, I look for the word on, that translates to at, that divides both the moneyer and the mint. I know that the letters in the same box and the quarter after will make up the mint, and the 2 quarters before will list the moneyer's name in full. Often the moneyer's name is in full, and because they run out of room, the mint is often abbreviated to make room. So let's look at our example. We find the word on down at the bottom. We can then find Lund after, telling me it's at London, and the 2 quarters before read Nicole. So this was minted in London under the moneyer Nicole, one of the most common mint and moneyer combinations. So let's go through the classes one by one, starting with class 1. In Christopher's book, the coins of class 1 are then subdivided into 1A and 1B. The earliest coins in the series do not give either the mint or issue of the name of the moneyer. It is believed that they were only made at London, and they usually included under London in lists and catalogues. The obverse legend commences at 12 o'clock with the star over a crescent initial mark and continues over onto the reverse. The class is subdivided using the wording of the obverse and reverse legends, which are simple to distinguish, and with those of class 2 are known and may be readily isolated by the combinations of the obverse and reverse. Coins of class 1 are extremely rare, and even poor examples fetch hefty sums. Coins of class 2 are now seen with a distinctive narrow face, and the coin legend has changed to Henricus Rex Terci, terci being Latin for 3, and the mark above the king's head has changed from the crescent and star in class 1 to just the star in class 2. A further 8 mints were activated to facilitate the conversion of the coinage into the new type, and these mints may be readily distinguished from class 1 by the form of the legend. The obverse now reads Henricus Rex Terci, and it starts at 12 o'clock. The reverse legend now gives the moneyer's name and the mint abbreviation, linked by the letters on, and the form of the reverse legend continues throughout the rest of the coinage. We know that mules with class B are also known. The shape of the letter X in Rex is the basis for the subdivision in classes 2. Class 3 are one of the most commonly found, and they are divided into subclasses too. The legend surrounding the obverse now reads Henricus Rex 3, that remains until the introduction of the sterling coinage in 1279. Class 3 are the last to be designed with no scepter, with the legend starting at 12 o'clock with the star initial mark. Within class 3 we then have 3 main subclasses listed in Christopher's book, and the further studies have created more subclasses for each too. Coins of class 3A show the king to have a tall and thin face with a pointy chin, similar to that of class 2. The letter X appears in 2 forms, and the R has a large wedged foot. We then have the more common, if not the most common of class 3, class 3B, where the face is broad and the beard is usually formed of 3 large pellets. Class 3C is similar but generally has a shorter face, and we now see the addition of a colon between the X in Rex and the 3. Class 4 was a short-lived transitional type that sees the introduction of the scepter on the obverse over the king's right shoulder. The biggest difference that separates the coins of class 4 and 5 is the position of Rex and the 3 around the scepter. On screen now you can see a comparison, displaying how class 4 has Rex after the hand with 3 above the tip, and class 5 is then redesigned to have 3 between the scepter and hand, and Rex before the hand. Class 4 have 3 main subclasses that all vary depending on the crown ornaments and the central fleur. We then have the largest class of the entire series, Series 5, with a great variety in busts, crowns and letterings throughout the subclasses. The crown appears in 2 forms. The first has a central element of 3 pellets with lines linking them to the band set in a triangle and with half fleurs at the ends. The second has a single pellet at each end in place of the half fleur. The outer part of the eyes are round, and the letter A is sometimes double barred. The transition to class 5B now sees the letter R displaying a wedge-shaped tail. Class 5C are generally the same as class 5B, but the eyes are now almond-shaped as opposed to round. Coins of class 5D are very rare, and the crown now seems to be doubled slightly, and the appearance of the X and R changed slightly too. Class 5E are also very rare, with a very distinct band to the king's crown that appears as a definite double line with pellets in between. Class 5F now sees a difference in the crown too, with there being a double-lined band with no pellets in between. Sometimes a line of 3 pellets is seen before the H in Henricus. Class 5G are the most common of class 5, and the crown is now the most distinguishing factor of this subclass, and I tend to recognise this subclass because of the broad bust design. Class 5G are identical to that of the rare subclass of 5F, with the crown being the only difference. Class 5H is a scarce subclass, with the bust and crown now subtly depicted, and the crown fleurs are now made up of 3 pellets in the triangle. Coins of Class 6 are thought to have been produced in 1269 and produced through to Edward's reign, where Edward continued to use Henricus in his name. The portrait is now very distinctly different, and are very commonly sold cheaply as Henry III. The distinguishable feature of this class is the formation of hair to each side of the king's face. The hair is now represented by more realistic curls. These pennies, issued posthumously, were quite scarce until the discovery of a second Colchester hoard in 1969. The 2 hoards and an empty container of a possible third hoard have all been found within a 20-metre square area along the High Street in Colchester between Essex between 1902 and 2000, but a video on this will be coming shortly. Coins of Class 7 are thought to have been produced in 1272 and thus produced early in the reign of Edward I. The realistic hair of Class 6 is displayed, and there is now variation in the letter N, and the portrait is now distinctively different. Coins of Class 7 are excessively rare, and a whole example will set you back a considerable amount, especially in today's market. Many examples are found cut and misidentified, but I haven't been lucky enough to find one just yet. So now let's move on to the Irish coins of Henry. No coins had been minted in Ireland since the issues of King John, which ended in about 1210 AD. Ireland had its own supply of silver, which was extracted as a byproduct from lead mining. These are bare and the same voided cross on the reverse, and the big difference is the king is now enclosed within a triangle, not a beaded circle. They were all struck in Dublin no earlier than September 1251, and no later than the recall of the Irish dies in January 1254. This is at about the same time as the English classes 5A, 5B and 5C were minted. The dies for the London coins were probably prepared in London under the supervision of Richard Bonaventure and David of Enfield, and then sent to the Dublin Mint. The obverse design is based on that of the king issued over 40 years earlier. These were minted under 2 moneyers, the more common Ricard and the less common Davy. The Irish long cross coinage have their own class system, split into 2 classes and 8 subclasses. And if you'd like to learn more about the class system of Irish pennies, take a look at Rob Page's publication down below. And we couldn't complete a long cross video without mentioning the extremely scarce gold penny. With less than 10 known examples, one coin was found and sold through Spinks in 2021 for a whopping £540,000 and has set the world record for a single coin found in English soil. I was lucky enough to speak with the finder, who had posted it on Facebook looking for a valuation before it was removed for his own safety. The importance of the find cannot be stressed enough, and until the reign of King Henry III of England, any need in England for coins worth more than 1 penny was met by the use of Byzantine and Arabic gold and silver coins which circulated among the merchants and traders. However, as commerce increased, so did the need for higher value coins. In 1257, Henry instructed his goldsmith, William of Gloucester, to produce a coinage of pure gold. The gold penny was introduced with a value of 20 pence. The king's obverse showed the king enthroned in his royal attire, with a sceptre in his right hand. The reverse contained a long cross extending to the edge, with a flower in each quarter, and the moneyer's name in the legend. The gold penny was not popular, however, and Thomas Cartay, in A General History of England, says that the citizens of London made a representation against them on the 24th of November 1257, and that the king was so willing to oblige them that he published a proclamation declaring that nobody was obliged to take it, and whoever did might bring it to the exchange and receive their value at which it had been made current, 1 halfpenny only being deducted from each, most probably for expense of the coinages. Compared to its bullion weight, the coin was undervalued, which is why it wasn't very successful. And by 1265, the gold in the coin was worth 24 pence rather than 20, and it is believed that most of the coins were melted down for profit by individuals. Gold coins would then not be minted again in England until the reign of King Edward III about 70 years later. So there we have it. I hope you've enjoyed today's video and a walkthrough of the Long Cross series of Henry III. Be sure to let me know down below the examples you all hold in your collections. Thank you all for watching, and as always, keep collecting.